So we just went through figuring out the audio, and Clint, would you like to explain the adventure of finding the correct audio?
I took about 10 minutes figuring out why my mic wasn't working when the software was actually reading the laptop's internal mic.
And we were like twisting dials.
We were trying to figure out why every setting we tried to twist and turned wasn't making any difference at all.
And I'm sitting there going, well, I'm glad that isn't my job. I'm going to sit here and be like, it's Clint's job to stress out about this. I'm just a voice.
Oh, that railroad rag. Oh, that railroad rag. It's so entrancing, it makes you fall asleep in Fargo and you wake up in Chicago. Hear that engine hum? That train's sure going some. Here comes that choo, 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 choo. That's the railroad rag.
So welcome to Derailed.
How did we get here? We're not sure. But yeah, so I guess the topic that we talked about wanting to do for our first
Well, before we talk about
episode.
the topic,
we
we should probably introduce ourselves. And
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. We should let people know who we are. So
Yeah.
would you like to start?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Fable Siegel. I'm Fable Paint on pretty much everywhere in social media. And Clint is my partner. So, Clint, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Clint Pereira. I am a writer and editor. And I'm pretty much just do freelance work for that right now. And I have 2 self-published books.
He's an author.
And
an English major.
They are digital books that I put out on the internet myself. So very, very modern writer.
Alright, so my name's Ashley, also known as Kilo Monster. I run a webcomic called Monster's Garden. And I'm the newest addition to this household after spending too much time in the military. I am free, and yes.
And I am Ashton. I kind of dabble in everything. I write some, and I do art, and I own a little business online, and yeah, so I've just always been engaged in, all the creative stuff ever since I was a kid. We're all here doing a podcast together because we're all a whole bunch of
Artist types.
Nerds.
Anxious artist nerds.
We all have depression. I guess I forgot to say what I do. I am a professional storyboard artist and a freelance artist, and I have my own comic, umbagog.com. Yeah, so we're just nervy people.
Yeah, so we started with podcasts. It is called Derailed because we moved in together into a house that's by the railroad tracks.
Don't be surprised if you hear like a sudden train whistle and
it'll be a test of what the mic can pick up.
Yeah,
I hope it picks it up.
But yeah, and another reason we settled on Derailed. We actually had a roommate meeting to try and figure out what to call this thing. And Ashley you were just kind of off to the side. I was like, I don't know, I can't, I'm not good at names. And then Ashley came up with the name, and it was perfect because so many of our conversations just start off with something that we're just discussing, something we're all have feelings and opinions about, and then it turns into something wackadoo and completely off topic.
We're just sit there and I'm like, wait, what was I talking about again?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's and this is without the influence of weed or alcohol. So
yeah, I've gotten asked many a time, hey, are you high? And I'm like, no, that's just how I am. Just weird. But now we also have a cute excuse, thanks to the name, for if you hear a sudden what sounds like a monster going by. It's just the train. It's just the train. Or my brain is, leaking air. So, either way.
So for our first topic, we all settled on Steven Universe, considering, the big reveal recently. So, spoiler alert, if you have not caught up on Steven Universe.
And if you haven't caught up yet, this isn't very topical anymore. It's been, a month?
So this is spoilers post a single pale roast. Yes. So huge spoiler warning for, what are we on, season 5 or something?
Something, and it's pretty soon. And soon they're going to be playing more of the episodes, so maybe it will be topical, because people will be looking for that kind of thing.
So, I know that for myself personally, like, Steven Universe in general has been just such an amazing show, because it's a lot different from what we're used to seeing in cartoons. And, like, we've been led to believe from the beginning that, Rose Quartz was this, like, flawless, perfect person, or at least that's how Steven sees her.
Yeah. Rose Quartz, the leader of the Crystal Gems. Like, in case anybody hasn't seen the show, and
go watch it.
If you're getting it anyway, go watch it.
We're not gonna catch them up on everything.
No.
But yeah, so we've kind of taken this journey with Steven in thinking how he thinks about Rose and how, like, we followed along. And I know that even from the intro to Steven Universe, Rose always... There's that scene where it's, like, a huge rose, and her eyes are, like, blacked out. No. In the beginning of the show, where... they're singing the Steven Universe song, and there's this huge rose, like, off in the background, I think while they're, like, running.
I never picked up on that.
Yeah, and she has her eyes blacked out, and she looks very ominous. And so I was always very confused.
Is that new? Like, I never noticed.
No, that's always been there.
Whoa.
So I just was confused by that, because I know that, like, I'm sure that they didn't... I thought that they didn't mean that to look ominous, but it seemed very ominous
awkward
to me.
Design.
But now that we've seen Single Pale Rose, it's like, it's like, so that's why.
I love this theme where it's like you're following Steven, and, like, the tone of the show also tends to mature and get darker as Steven himself becomes more and more aware of the world. Like, if you've ever seen the show and you felt like it was too simplistic, too saccharine and sugary and sweet for you because you saw what was likely the first season, and that was the case with me. I saw parts of season 1 when it just came out, and I was like, this isn't my thing. I figured it was just a sweet show that was like candy, sugar-coated, magical girls with this little boy following along, okay, whatever. But as the seasons have progressed, and Steven himself matures, like, it starts getting more. There's more happens. Like, the saccharine nature that was in season 1 turns out to have just been a reflection of Steven's own, like, internal mood. Like, he is that sweet, like, innocent kid for whom everything's just a fun adventure. He doesn't question what's going on.
Yeah.
He's just like, let's fight the bad guys, and we're the good guys, and And, even the theme song reflects that. It's like his theme song for their group.
So, one question that I have is whether or not Greg always knew about this. Because I remember there's an episode where he and Steven are in his van, and Steven is, like, asking questions because he's, like, just starting to question his mom and, like, her motives and whether or not, like, she was actually right about things. And Greg gets, like, very cagey and, like, very, like, not giving him straight answers, and just seems like he knows more than he's letting on. So that's kind of something I'm wondering about, is whether Greg knew about these things.
We know that,
but didn't want to, like, ruin his son's vision of what his mom was.
We know that also Rose tended to share certain things with Greg that she never talked about with the Gems, which is indicative of, like, their deeper relationship, that she saw Greg as more like a partner as opposed to a servant or a soldier or, like, part of, like, a fighting force or anything like that, and possibly more intimately than previous partners she had, because Pearl mentioned in a different episode where I think she was saying, like, so this is it, basically. Like,
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, Rose had other partners before Greg, but it wasn't until Greg that Rose actually changed herself. Like, she always acted very carefree, she loved nature, that kind of thing, but it was with Greg that I think she understood, like, you know, that there were other ways of being, there was some responsibility she had in the situation, and Greg's not the kind of person who would be shy about telling her this is right or wrong. Like, we see even an early version of Greg when he's much younger, and he's still a really mature and thoughtful dude who is definitely has, like, a level of emotional intelligence where he would be fine with telling Rose that it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay to lie about who she was to her friends and to the other diamonds. It's not okay to hide your face away, regardless of what your position is, and that, you know, her actions might have resulted in the deaths of, like, thousands and thousands of other gems, and all the corrupted gems everywhere might have in fact been indirectly her fault by not being more honest about what her position was as the authority of this, like, diamond colonization project.
So I think, you know, after having watched this last episode, that a lot of Rose's or Pink Diamond's motivations have been through shame and guilt. Like, I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think even Steven's birth was entirely something out of just pure love. It was the fact that she's trying to make things better after she basically ruined an entire planet and all, like, you know, who knows how many gems, you know, like, just and it's I think we're going to learn a lot more about that, about how that's one of the biggest mysteries, is how was Steven created? How did Steven even happen?
I know Rose also seemed incredibly OP for someone who was just supposed to be a quartz soldier. I was like, is this just something quartzes can do? But then you meet other quartzes and none of them can do anything remotely like that.
I know, I felt, like, so stupid when like everything was revealed, because like, Steven, I didn't question why she had all of these powers. I thought she was just, like, special or something, or she was like, quote unquote off color or something, and so she has these powers that she's not supposed to. But, like, it never clicked in my head that maybe she's a diamond, actually.
I think
but like, once it revealed that, I was like, of course that's why she can do, like, everything under the sun.
Well, I think we've also been trained in, especially with a lot of children's media aimed at a younger crowd, that the story is going to be simple and there's going to be characters who are special for no particular reason. And to be fair to kids' media, honestly, that exists in a lot of adult media too. Like, how many iterations of Sherlock, or, like, spin-offs of Sherlock, or copycats of that whole detective formula where one dude is super smart just for reasons, like, to a degree that makes no sense. It's like, if you know intelligent people, they don't just drop, like, world-shattering stuff at the drop of a hat. That's not how it works. Like, you have to actually think through things and have studied things. Like, your ability to accumulate information might be better if you are intelligent, just because you can work through it faster.
Well, I think that it kind of lends to Steven's story. Because, like, so far as we understand, like, Rose being Pink Diamond, she didn't have to work for her powers that we know of. Like, she's a diamond, so she just has these powers, and you know, whatever. But Steven, like, he's had to actively, like, discover things he can do. And has kind of earned his powers in a way, because he doesn't generally discover these things just willy-nilly, you know, on accident. Well, he does discover them on accident, but it's usually to, like, help other people, or he has some kind of motivator that reveals these things. I don't know, like, what to think and, like, what we're gonna find out. And mostly I'm very worried about Garnet.
Yeah.
Because we see her unfuse, and
in that one trailer preview thing that we saw, that is supposed to be for the next episode.
yeah.
But Garnet was like the one gem who we haven't seen quite as much development on. We know the story of Ruby and Sapphire. We know a little bit about Garnet and like what she aspires to be. We know that she takes her role as leader and her future sight very seriously. And we finally get to see, before that episode, before Single Pale Rose, Garnet actually having a breakdown because her future sight, she realizes now, has a huge flaw, which is that humans make choices that are not predictable because they change over time. And she is thrown by the fact that Steven makes decisions now that Steven wouldn't make decisions like even a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
She's not used to that. Like in her world, in the gem world, when you are born, that's who you are.
Yeah.
You don't fundamentally change in terms of like your choices, your philosophy, your personality, anything when you're a gem. And speaking of that, like at first we thought that on Earth they can just be whoever they want, they can make those choices, they're free here. But in the reveal of A Single Pale Rose, finding out that actually Rose Quartz was a diamond, Pearl was her assistant, and everybody else was playing their roles. They were still playing their roles.
Yeah.
They weren't free at all. They weren't actually busting ideas, and they were inspired by Quartz because they figured, if you could change, then we can change too. But if Rose, as a Quartz, actually never changed, like her abilities weren't better because she had just evolved, if it was just inherent to her being a diamond, that super violates everything that they taught her. Mm-hmm. And that really will throw Garnet as well, because Garnet is a big believer in, like, following your own path and being the strong one and like trying to be who Rose Quartz was, because as Garnet, as Ruby and Sapphire combined, neither of them are considered leader types. Mm-hmm. She's trying to take on a role that wasn't assigned her, and it actually might feel a little bit unnatural, but she hides that. She tries not to share her emotions. And
what do you... You're being quiet, Ashley.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts about...
anything.
Well,
I like alligators. Tell us about that.
No. But in regards to Rose and Pink Diamond, I always kind of thought that there was definitely an association with the diamonds for Rose. Maybe not that Rose was Pink Diamond, but like Lion's warp ability, it actually uses the same type of sound that we hear when the diamonds are on screen.
I never noticed that.
And yeah,
I just figured it was something that is part of gem tech, but I never picked up on that.
Yeah, I don't have any way of describing it, but
make the sound.
No, I cannot make the sound of my
wow.
But that's just something that I always had noticed, and so I never thought that Lion was Pink Diamond, because I saw some of those theories. But I definitely thought that there was a connection to the diamonds in Rose Quartz, but because of the red herrings and such, I had always been on the fence on whether Rose actually was Pink Diamond.
The red herrings, though, I mean, I anticipate red herrings in shows that are meant for adults. Like, when they're used well, it's like it can be either annoying or really satisfying, like, oh, you got me. But I'm not used to seeing it in shows aimed at kids, because they generally don't like to trip up kids. Like, in general, children's media tends to be a little bit simpler in storytelling and very structured. Like, you can generally predict, like, what will happen. And I've been pleasantly, I don't want to say surprised, there's got to be a better word for it, impressed. I've been pleasantly impressed about how complex children's media has been becoming in like the past 5 or 10 years. I think largely thanks to DVR and then Netflix and stuff, because now kids can just go and rewatch it, and so you can have like continuity in a show, whereas you couldn't before.
Yeah.
You can have a complexity. You can reach a wider audience, and it's just taken a while for the shows to kind of catch up with like the reality that technology provides, because studios, networks, that kind of thing, they tend to be pretty conservative. Like, they don't like to make big idea business decisions. They prefer to make those kinds of risky, in their eyes, decisions about like what kind of shows to push and give money to and greenlight, only if somebody else has already taken the first step. If they think it's a proven thing or a proven method, then they will go ahead and jump all over it. But nobody wants to be the first person, because the first person bears the cost, literally in other ways. But yeah, like, I think one reason why I'm often surprised by things that happen in Steven Universe is that it's kind of rewriting what's possible in children's entertainment for sure, but even in adult entertainment, like I can't think of any show meant for adults that covers topics like what Steven Universe has, like really like exploring like what is a relationship, you know, what does it mean to grow up and realize that your parents are very flawed people, the story of like an immigrant story also, a mixed family story, just so many things, and it's like those are rare subject matter for most media.
Mixed gender, like
misgender.
There's a lot of. I think that's one of the things I really love about the show is it tackles. You can look at it from so many different angles, and the kind of the running line is it tackles kind of ambiguity and straddling like two sides of something. Like in the immigrant story, you're talking about, Steven is both human and gem, and he has to come to terms with that. And there's a lot of that theme that runs through the show of just the what's I think so upsetting about Earth to the gems is that there's no clear cut lines. There's no roles to follow. Everything's very fuzzy.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a great show, and it's not just you beat the bad guys and go out for pizza. It's
yeah.
Even
though it sort of starts
a lot of people are crying, and we wonder why is everyone in this cartoon crying?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, so that makes me think of the show that's within the show. Is
Yes.
it like crying vegetables or
Crying
whatever.
breakfast.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I hope that one day they make an episode of Crying Breakfast Friends, because I want to watch it.
Yes.
I feel like Crying Breakfast Friends is going to be like the distilled Tumblr version of Steven Universe.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Or it's
crying
just-
and everybody's dating each other. And,
It's a tale of friends with depression.
Yes.
oh, like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a show about us. That's why we want it.
Yeah. I find it very relatable, all this depression. Speaking of depression, should we break for a word from our sponsors? We have sponsors, don't you know? I lined up. Look,
I love this segue.
What a great
Yes.
transition!
Yes.
Yeah, Fable.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Well,
want
I
to
mean,
associate
yes,
professional
my-
with our
what's-
sponsors.
As you know, YouTube accounts are not cheap, so I had to reach out to a few companies for sponsorship purposes. And, when you're a podcast just starting out, the companies that are willing to give you money are fairly unorthodox. But they said...
They're bottom of the barrel.
I mean, don't call them bottom of the barrel. They won't sponsor us anymore.
I'm sorry.
No, they're good in quality brands.
Yes.
Yes.
They're so good.
So good.
So let's
quality.
hear from
Okay.
our sponsors.
Okay, all right. So they sent me these scripts that I can read out, and okay, so maybe not that one. Okay, how about this one? How much laughing are we gonna have to edit down?
Maybe not that bottom of the barrel advertising.
Maybe I don't want their sponsorship.
Swipe right.
So all right. Everybody here has their struggles with weight problems, correct?
Sure.
Yeah. I hate looking at myself in the mirror. How about you, Ash? Yes. Yeah, and Clint, you had to back down from eating cereal 5 times a day, and now you've finally been losing some weight.
That's right, Fable.
Would you like to lose even more weight?
I would love to.
Well, I just got turned on to this amazing diet by world-famous Dr. Sharp. It's called Norts.
Norts.
Tell me more.
Dr. Sharp is a genius in the field of weight loss. Using his own patented knife shorts technology, he created a product that's half knives, half shorts.
Wow.
Norts can literally cut away the pounds.
Oh my god.
Would you like to know how it's done?
Yes.
Yes. Medical grade knives are manufactured into the shorts to non-invasively cut into your skin and take the weight directly from inside your body.
Non-invasively.
Non-invasively cut into you. Yes.
Okay.
Look, I didn't write it, alright? They sent this to me. Look, it's a quality product. They can afford to sponsor our show, which means this is a quality script.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
No need for annoying gym memberships or fad diets. The knives do all the work. Did you know the average body can contain over 10 pounds of blood? Imagine that!
That's some water weight.
Yeah.
Indeed. That's a lot of extra weight to lug around. Wouldn't you love to lose it? In just one session, you can lose 5, 10, or even 20 whole pounds. Wow, so much blood. And it's so easy. All you have to do is put them on, and you're ready to go. In style. Because French and Italian fashion experts help design Norts. They're guaranteed to be on the cutting edge of fashion.
Wink.
Don't look good in red? Norts have specially designed dyes in the fabric to turn your blood purple, yellow, or aquamarine.
Oh my god.
Maybe
Wow.
even other colors.
Awesome.
Amazing.
It's both fashionable and functional. And guess what? I'm wearing Norts right now. I mean, I know you guys weren't really questioning all the blood pooling.
Yeah.
I mean, I am on my period and
Well,
all, but I'm wearing a pad. just
Well,
to let you know.
considering it's aquamarine, we had no idea.
I mean,
That's just the beauty of Norts.
oh, I know, it's amazing. Quality, it's quality.
Right in time for Pride Month.
Oh, rainbow.
Beautiful. I mean, it's just. I need to lie down. Okay. After I lie down. Why is it so cold in here, guys?
Oh my god.
Guys.
People know.
We'll turn on the heat for Fable. I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll get the blanket and some towels. So
Is that our only
So
sponsor?
now back to our program.
yeah. All right. God,
Later, we'll have one more sponsor. They only gave me $5.
And a pair of Norts.
oh my god.
It's so
All
fashionable.
right, Clint, Ashley, take over. I'm gonna make sure Fable doesn't die.
Oh, okay.
Alright.
Let's see. I want to talk about White Diamond.
Okay, yes, White Diamond. She hasn't sewn up yet.
She has, though. We saw a hand.
Yeah, we saw her hand.
So now we know everything.
No.
Okay, so I want to talk about White Diamond because I have theories, alright?
Okay.
I know we don't know anything about her.
No, but I mean, she's the only diamond left to have theories on, so.
Yes, true. So, what we do know is that White Diamond is larger than the other diamonds.
Yes.
But based totally not on me looking this up on Wikipedia or anything, but diamonds are clear in color unless they have impurities.
Yes.
So the Diamond Authority, not just pink diamond, but also blue and yellow diamond, are actually basically
like off colors?
Off color. They're basically off color white diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they don't tell anyone that. They just go, oh, the diamonds are perfect. But it becomes very clear with pink diamond that this is, the pink diamond's much smaller than the others, and the planet's kind of dying. That's essentially why they're colonizing all these other planets, is because they can't even make diamonds authentic looking anymore, basically.
You could say diamonds don't last forever.
Oh.
Thank you so much for this Thai tea, Ash, by the way. It's really making my blood come back in my body. Unfortunately, it's all caffeinated blood, so...
Thai's tea. They're not a sponsor.
I would like to know what company nailed the trademark for just the phrase Thai iced tea.
So, I think that this is essentially a family story. You have Stephen, who's learning about his history, his past, his mother, but then as we learn more about his past, we're getting deeper into the history of not just his family, but his, larger family history, his country's history. Not just, he's part from Earth, but he's also part from Homeworld. That's half of his heritage.
Yeah.
And so he's learning more about that. And there's a lot of lies and propaganda that gets thrown around among the gems. So he's trying to figure out the actual real truth, where all the gems are just like, oh, well, this is just the way it is. And that's just what they've been told by their higher-ups, or the things that they've just kind of latched onto and never let go. And I think that blue and yellow diamond aren't really immune to this either. They have this perception of, okay, diamonds are supposed to be perfect, but since they are off colors, they are flawed beings. And in trying to be perfect, they're actually destroying themselves emotionally.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see if White Diamond is actually this perfect being, or what's going on with her. Because, does White Diamond actually have people underneath her, or is it just the diamonds that are underneath her? Does she actually care about having gem children, or is she just removed from everything and detached? Because it feels to me like that's what Yellow Diamond is trying to be. It's just this is what a leader does. Leader is detached and emotionless. Leader is strong. And I feel like that's Yellow's interpretation of White Diamond.
Yeah.
About her mother, essentially.
What's the use of feeling, Blue?
Yeah, exactly. And
that's
Blue...
a new way of framing that sentence. Calling Blue Diamond blue, not just feeling blue.
Right.
Well,
If you actually read the title of the song, it's What's the Use of Feeling? And then in parentheses, blue.
Oh.
Yeah, so she's actually just... It seems like she's talking about, what's the use of feeling sad? She's actually talking about what's the use of feeling at all to Blue Diamond. So she's trying to cut all of that out of her. And so that's just kind of wrecking her. And then whereas Blue Diamond is on the other side, where she is... got this huge victim complex, kind of she's just incredibly emotional and can't stop it.
Yeah.
And
she can't let go of her sadness.
Yes. And I wonder if that's just because they never really had a real upbringing, like a parent's, if White Diamond was just kind of this absentee mother that never really raised them or taught them how to exist, and so they just kind of pieced it together on what they knew about their mother, kind of like what Steven's doing, except he actually has other people to talk to, and he's not just completely alone like the Diamonds are. The Diamonds only have each other.
Yeah.
Like, everyone else is their subordinates.
Pink clicked the reset button. She did a hard system reboot. Went back and, wiped the OS, basically.
You could argue whether Pink did the right thing or not. You really could.
Yeah.
Because I think her intentions were all in the right place, where she said, okay, the things my parents, the other Diamonds are doing are, wrong, I don't agree with them, but then her solution was just running away.
Yeah.
Whereas Steven is trying to confront it and learn the truth and not just run.
Well, because, when he basically turns himself over to the Diamonds, I think at that point he realized his mom was, running away from everything. And, and that's all Pink ever did, was, I think the admirable thing about Pink, aka Rose, is that she was more interested in, creating and fostering life, and was fascinated with the earth. But
Martha, what are you doing?
That's the dog.
Yeah, that's one of the two dogs we have.
But
it's going good. Yeah. He was just
Where was I?
licking something weird off. What was he doing?
It looked like he was licking a wire.
The moth is a miniature Australian Shepherd, just to give you some idea.
And he is special.
He was sitting by a power outlet, just going. So we were a little concerned.
That's my boy.
Your special boy.
But yeah, so it's so she's focused on creating and just being transfixed with life and wanting to know more about it, and seeing the value in that. But it seems like instead of trying to make a case to the other Diamonds, she's always she's kind of more like a kid to them. And so they have never taken her seriously, and she's, like we saw in Steven's dream, or Stevani's dream, about how she has to throw a fit to get what she wants, and
that does her no favors, because it's like she's trying to be louder, but it's really just making them think that she's an impetuous child even more. And I can totally relate to that feeling, when you're especially when I was younger and I felt like nobody listened to me, and you start speaking louder and kind of acting maybe a little bit more obnoxiously, just trying to get someone's attention, and then people, you experience a backlash against that, and you don't know what did I do wrong? I was just trying to be heard, and nobody was listening to me.
But yeah, so unlike her, Steven has he inherited the fascination with the world, but from his dad, he kind of gets the more level-headedness as far as you can't keep running away from this, and he's really trying to confront everything head on, like you said. But I think that the truth comes at a cost. Basically, ignorance is bliss, in a way where, from the beginning of the show, the less he knew, the happier he was. And the more and more he's finding out, the more conflicted he is. And
he's having, breakdowns.
Yeah. And who can blame him?
Dealing with, the actual consequences of being what is a soldier in a war, where he's starting to get really, really edgy, really itchy about what's happening, and upset, and he feels because Rose is him, and he's I have to solve her problems. It's now my problem, and that makes it my fault. And he's developed such a complex by like thinking that he has to be Rose but better, which is admirable. But he also thinks he has to suffer every sin that she did. Like, it's now his responsibility because he just doesn't want to see other people get hurt. But and like, you can understand why he does this, but he also isn't opening up to people and trying to find solutions that don't involve him just like literally sacrificing himself. Not understanding that that's not really a win to people. They might be alive, but they're not going to be happy. Yeah.
It's like there's no sense in becoming a martyr for...
Well, that's what Rose did.
Right. Well, you know, she fabricated her own death and basically... I feel like she is a martyr to the diamonds and to the gems.
Yeah.
But, you know, her story is coming more and more to light. And it's becoming more clear that this was less a heroic decision and more of a cowardly one.
Yeah. It definitely puts like it recontextualizes everything we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, we were just watching some episodes before starting the podcast, and it's funny how, like, you'll watch things and be like, oh, hey, that communicator that she picks up is, like, all 4 diamond colors, or, like, you were saying that the start of the show, like, Rose looks incredibly ominous, and...
Or, I was just saying that I was watching Like a Comet, and there's pink diamonds in the background while he's singing.
Or Ashley, your observation about the sound of Pink Lion when he teleports.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were just dicking with us the entire show.
Oh yeah, because there was that the crew showed a photo from early production that the crew T-shirts had all the gems on it, and rose quartz was clearly a diamond. So they always knew.
Yeah.
So that they...
It's like our friend Kelly, who has, like, she works at Cartoon Network and is, you know, privy to all these things but can't tell us anything. And so, like, anytime we're talking about Steven Universe with her, she's like,
I'm gonna bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Just sitting there with, like, this big-ass smirk.
But yeah, she has taken that NDA very seriously, to all of our chagrin.
Well, it's honorable.
It's very honorable. I wouldn't want her to spoil it.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want her to risk that either.
No.
But I back on the subject of you know, diamonds and gems to a degree, like something always being a certain way and not being able to change, and how humans, you know, it's in our nature to change from the time we're infants into adulthood, and like we're constantly changing until we die. Like, you know, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago.
You're literally not the same person you were 10 years ago. Like, every atom in your body has been replaced. Your cells have been replaced.
But yeah, I think to kind of bring it into a real world context, I recently watched this TED Talk that was it was about a guy who he used to be a leader of a white supremacy group, and how he was basically like set in those ways, and he was groomed for this like since he was 14. Like, someone recruited him when he was a kid, and he was like alone and having a really hard time, and it became something where he could belong. And so he belonged there, he had a role, he had, you know, structure and everything, and yet he was doing all of these heinous, awful things for the supremacy group.
Well, they like to make these, like, usually teenage boys, they'd like to make them think that they're, like, a superhero if they join their organization. Like, you are worthless, you feel upset and alone and isolated because you're not given your proper due. Like, in fact, you could be a superhero, and if you do all these things for us, then you will be a superhero. And they'll dress it up real pretty.
But yeah, so the story was just how, like, through the progression of his life, up until, you know, he finally left that organization and, you know, was actively trying to, like, make up for all the horrible things he did. And the terrible messages he sent out, like, each time he came to a place where he lost meaning, he changed. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's true for most people. And I think it's true for Steven in Steven Universe, where, like, his mom kind of represents, like, all of these awful things and mistakes, and he's trying to break free of that. But going back to the guy from the TED Talks, like, he was always trying to run away from the things that he did. Like, he was trying to be better, but he also was not confronting the damage he did. And so he was never finding that peace or that, you know, like, he had...
Catharsis?
Right.
Yeah.
And so he was never finding that. And so he was never able to, like, get out from under the thumb of his past. So as soon as he actually started, like, going to people that he had directly harmed and started doing, like, you know, TED Talks and things like this, it wasn't until he started doing that he could find his peace. So I feel like that's kind of what Steven is doing, is he's finally trying to, like, actually confront the things that his mother did, because in essence he is his mom.
Yeah.
And you can't walk away from an ugly past, even if it's not literally yours. Like, we face that in this country. We're all Americans, by the way. We're currently in Los Angeles. We face that in our country. Like, we have this colonialist history. We have, like, some really ugly stuff that happened that made this nation what it is today, and especially recently, we're really having to face that and face the fact that you can't solve those problems by just walking away from ugly truths. And maybe you weren't alive when it happened, or your parents and their grandparents were, like, in another country when it happened, but it still affects you. It affects the people around you. Yeah. And you have to face it head on, because it will not get solved by just walking away.
Right. Well, I think, you know, it's a big part of the United States, because our history has basically been trying to erase history rather than confront it and admit that, like, there was wrongdoing, and that, you know, our ancestors or whatever are responsible for, like, awful things. And any time that, like, a marginalized group comes forward and is like, so, hey, could you at least acknowledge that this happened, they're met with so much backlash, because, you know, kind of as a nation, we don't want to face those things. We want to just kind of be like, well, that was in the past, and we're better now, and it's fine. Like, why can't it be enough that we've made progress? Right?
No. Some people want to get better, but we on the whole are not better, and this is something we need to learn. And I mean, a large part of that is also, like, what we're taught as kids that we then as adults just assume to be truths. Like, I was really fortunate in that I had a pretty varied and well-rounded history education in my school. Like, I grew up in New Hampshire. We had I had really fantastic history teachers that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And we didn't just focus on, like, European history from, like, the Dark Ages and oh, by the way, World War II happened. So for me, like, I go online and I see what people are ignorant of, and I'm just confused. And then I talk to friends of mine, like
me,
like you. Grew up in Texas.
I got a Texas education.
Yeah, and it is so different that I'll be talking to you about things, and you'll be like, wait, what happened? You know.
Yeah. Well, like, it's like I was telling Fable once. We were talking about, you know, Native American history, and how I got next to no education in that area. It was just like, this was this tribe, and these were the kinds of houses they built, and this is what a teepee is. And we never covered, like, the Trail of Tears. We didn't cover anything that was
Andrew
like
Jackson and why he's like the worst president.
Yeah, like didn't learn anything about that. Didn't learn anything about Jim Crow. I actually did not know.
You didn't learn about Jim Crow?
I didn't know a thing about
What?
Jim Crow until I watched Sons of Anarchy.
How white was your school?
Yeah.
Very, very white. I grew
Oh,
up
God.
in a very predominantly white area of Texas. Like, I only ever knew maybe 2 black people in my entire life. And
Whoa.
the only, like, Latinx people I knew was one boyfriend that I had.
In Texas.
In Texas.
In Texas.
And anyone else I ever saw, I never, like, directly met. They were, like, you know, janitors and gardeners and things like this. And so, like,
Ashley should be
I've 100% grown up in, like, white America.
Yeah.
So I was incredibly ignorant of a lot of things until, like, later on in my life.
It should be said that we do know that Texas is very diverse, and you can go to plenty of places in Texas where it is definitely not majority white.
Right.
Or there are cities, and there's plenty of enclaves where people don't have quite that level of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But Ash did not grow up in that kind of place. Ash grew up in
I grew
Lubbock,
up in red state, Texas.
very
you know?
red state, rural Texas. Although it's pretty funny to look on Google Maps now and see how much it's expanded.
Yeah.
Like, I was showing it to you and you're like, wait, they have what there now?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, there was an artist friend of ours, Intoxia, who does some amazing art, by the way. I mean, if you like to see gay furries making out, and they're like sort of emo boys, and like subscribe. Please subscribe to Intoxia. Intoxia actually is living in the same place you grew up. And they were
in
describing, in Lubbock, and they were describing to me what Lubbock was like, and I was like, that is very different than what you told me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you haven't been home in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We need to swing by there on our road trip to New Orleans eventually.
Yeah, I've been back to Texas precisely one time since I left when I was I think I was 20 or 21 when I left, and I'm 32 now. So within like a 10-year period, I've only been back once for one Christmas, and it was terrible.
I'm so sorry, Ash's family, if you're listening. She does love you.
I do.
Yeah.
I love my family.
Yeah.
But you know, it's definitely the Bible Belt section.
It's not a super friendly place to be if you're that queer smart kid.
Mm-hmm.
Bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts.
Well, while we're talking about like where we grew up, like Ashley, you haven't told me too much about like where you grew up. Like, what was your hometown like?
So I say that I don't have a hometown because I was raised in a military family.
Because you're a military brat.
Yes, my parents were Air Force, and I was actually born over in the UK.
What?
Yeah.
Do you have like a UK citizenship then?
I don't know. I'm still an
Because you were
American.
born on base, or
Yeah, I'm still an American citizen. I do have like some sort of like health number that I guess if I was over there, I could utilize their healthcare system.
dude.
But
Wait, if you were born in the UK, does that mean you can't take advantage of the UK of the EU health system or whatever because there's Brexit going on?
well, yeah, with the
It's
whole
like you better
Brexit
run over
thing,
there quick.
Yeah, who even knows? But you were born on U.S. territory, essentially,
Yes,
right?
yes. So
it's, a lot of it's moot point.
it's like, and I went to British school, but I was the American kid with the weird accent because, you know, my parents were American, so I spoke like them, and then, but
can you do a genuine English accent?
no. I don't, I was
Copy your old teachers. Just like, what did Mrs. Beasley sound like? Or whatever her name was.
I don't even remember the teachers that I had, but when I was 6, that's when we came back to the States. And I'd say that I would say that I'm a Californian, just because that's where I've spent the most time. And that's various parts of California, like up north, near Sacramento, in the Central Valley, and then South California, and then a little bit of Nevada, but I consider Las Vegas just an extension of California. Just maybe.
Vegas might agree.
Yeah.
That's it. Eddie, Vegas listeners, please write to us and complain about how inaccurate that is, and use the most grotesque kind of language that you can, because I really want to read it out loud.
Well, I feel like Vegas is like California if California was a little island.
Yes.
I feel like Vegas
it's like California's island, where like all the Californians go for their bachelor parties and for
Yes.
to get away and everything, and we
little,
actually have
little
a
California like it's a ghetto.
We have a friend who lives in Vegas, and
Kiri, right?
yeah, Kiri,
Yeah,
and,
another amazing
she-
artist,
yeah.
Monster Forge, or the Forge S. Mm-hmm. Is it Monster Forge now?
I don't remember.
It is on Twitter.
It is on Twitter. Yeah.
Anyway, if you've ever seen...
She was on Face Off, season 11.
She was on Face Off, and if you've ever also seen that viral picture of like this weird kind of gross-looking Doberman man with glowing eyes emerging from a basement, and it's like really fuzzy looking. Mm-hmm. It's totally some SCP creepypasta shit.
Yeah.
That's actually Kiri. Kiri made that outfit. Mm-hmm.
Kiri's internet famous.
Yeah,
Kiri is internet famous.
You would probably recognize it immediately if you saw the image.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's seen this.
It's
this
like on the level.
creature.
It's like roughly on the level of fame as smile.jpg with the husky with what looked like dentures in its mouth. Did you guys have that experience on online forums where there were actually kids who were saying, "Don't share smile.jpg. It's known to cause seizures. This is really serious, you guys."
I did not see that for smile.jpg, but I did see a lot of that for those pictures where you'd have to like squint at them to see
Magic
like
eye?
Yeah, like magic eye stuff.
Oh, fuck
so there was
Magic
one image that was like that, but it looked kind of like a parrot. And there was this whole like story attached to this image that if you like stared at it too long, that it could cause an aneurysm. And
Okay,
you would die.
gotta show me the cursed parrot picture because this is like, my aesthetic. This is very on brand for me. Please look up cursed parrot for me and then show it to me. Like, where's your phone?
Hang on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, God, I think as far as like creepy pastas, or pasta, I think... Shut up!
Well, it comes from the word paste, so I can understand how you would
I feel
say
like
that.
the only one that has like stuck with me and like gives me chills every time I hear it is the one where it's talking about like something terrible that happened. And toward the end,
Something awful.
it's saying, it's like, and the only way to bring you back to the real world is like if you say wake up, and like that phrase is kind of scattered throughout the story, and toward the end it's just says over and over again, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. So it's like if you're reading this story, it's like you're the person who is comatose or whatever because of whatever trauma that you went through. And so that always, like, even right now, it's like giving me goose pimples. So yeah, creepypastas are great. And that one always creeps me out.
My favorite creepypasta is just SCP Foundation on the whole.
Oh my god.
Like, I really enjoy those because they're just such fun little short stories, but horror stories presented in such a dry way that it allows your brain to fill in the gaps. Especially like the best ones really let your imagination just kind of roll and think about it, and you kind of realize like the horror of the concept as it's described. And I love my audiobooks lately have been mostly listening to The Volgan on YouTube, and just like that guy reading out like the different articles basically, and he'll try to actually like set the reading as if it's a lesson plan for current SCP employees. And I mean, I just love this concept of creepypasta because this whole shared world where here's some toys, go play with it, and like the things people do with that is so interesting.
So, so I found the cursed parrot image.
Okay, give me it.
I remembered its effects wrong, but here, you can read it off.
Yeah, just be careful. You almost bled out.
You could die.
You almost bled out
look,
earlier.
I took off the Norts, and I'm currently sitting here pantsless because you guys insisted that they looked awful on me. I don't know.
No, don't say that. That's our sponsor.
Well, like, that's not their fault. That's clearly my fault. I just don't wear clothes well. You thought this was a parrot?
Yeah,
like
it is. Like,
fractal.
read the text.
Okay. So here's what it says. It's like this weird spinning fractal that has a resemblance to a parrot. And the image says, the above image colloquially?
Yeah.
Colloquially. Linoleum.
That
The parrot. It's called the parrot, as it bears a resemblance, even when viewed safely. Is a reconstruction of Berriman and Turner's original logical imaging technique image. Oh, that's redundant. Produced by Cambridge Computing Lab, IV, now obviously defunct, at some point in 1983. This image, along with several others inadvertently produced, most infamously Langford's Basilisk, and the imagery produced by a typographical error in Your Sinclair No. 23's Fun with Fractals feature, generates patterns the human visual system cannot easily deal with. This so-called Gödelian shock input can, to put it crudely, crash the human brain. Oh, goodness, this is going to cause, like, blue screen of death your brain just by looking at this picture. That's awesome. I love that.
I think that description crashed my brain. I didn't understand
Yeah,
a word.
not.
I don't think I
The
didn't
image
understand
wouldn't,
a
but
word.
the grammar here is...
I didn't understand a word
I'm
you
so
said.
sorry, copy. I read it, and I barely understand. It's a little... This could be more concise. Anyway, to continue. The image above does not usually produce any immediate effect due to delayed neurochemical encoding of Gödelian spoilers. And then the phone went black.
Oh,
Please read the rest. You
these
need to
aren't-
unlock your phone.
these
It
aren't-
killed your phone.
These aren't sentences. They're
Wait,
just
it didn't
words
go black.
thrown together.
My vision went black. I'm blind. The parrot did it.
Says, but it's usually triggered several days later upon viewing any repetitive image that triggers the memory into recalling the original. So don't watch any Pokemon.
what?
What?
You know,
No, yeah, don't look at any fractals, don't play
look at any,
checkers.
don't look at any kind of pattern, and don't look at any strobing images.
You're gonna have to cover up that burn pattern on your arm because that's gonna trigger it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So
What else
we'll
in the
have
house is a pattern?
that blanket behind you.
Oh shit.
So we'll have to fractal and pattern proof the house, I guess,
Yeah.
in the next few days,
No
or
more.
else. You know, you had a brush with death with the Norts. We don't want you to actually
I know.
die.
I'm on a fragile state here. Clearly, I need to get more used to this weight loss plan.
Yes.
I probably shouldn't be drinking Thai iced tea at the same time. Then it's probably counteracting that a little bit. But hey, I'm alive.
Yay.
So what about you guys? Like, do you have a favorite creepypasta or SCP?
The only ones that I can think of that, and I don't think I ever had one that like I was really scared of, but I always enjoyed like the Lavender Town creepypasta. It was like some story where
You mean the Death Pokemon game?
Pokemon Black or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good one. That one and Ben Drowned.
Oh yeah, Ben
Yeah.
Drowned.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only ones that I can really remember from my Wii internet days.
Ben Drowned has actual video footage. Like someone put a lot of effort into putting together a mod, and it's really impressive because I believe at the time it was made, it wasn't easy to do that. I don't know who put it together. I think I was listening to a podcast of sorts where they were talking about Ben Drowned. So I think it was Nightmind maybe was going into it, but they're man, the effort they put into that is impressive.
Yeah.
Like it's actually an entertaining watch, and it's a little bit less of a a story you can't possibly comprehend or even enjoy unless you find every aspect of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And from what I've read on the story of Ben Drowned, it's actually more interesting if you don't dive completely into an explanation of why it is, because it's some kind of death cult or whatever, where the dude is like speaking to other people from beyond the grave via a forum, and he happened to use like the game was like some sort of material for the cult or whatever. It's more interesting actually if it's a simpler story in that case. Or at least I found it more compelling until I found it.
Just watch a playthrough of it. It's if it's October even better. You just enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh my god. So Ted the Caver.
What?
Oh.
You guys don't know about Ted the Caver?
Oh no, please tell me.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm ashamed of all of you, first of all.
Okay.
Well, clearly I'm going to have to look this up afterwards.
Yes, so our listeners also, if you've never heard of Ted the Caver, this was like one of the original, quote-unquote creepypasta sort of things, and it's on this like old GeoCities website. And so if anybody is a 90s kid and remembers GeoCities...
I hope it's still around.
It is.
Oh my god, is it still GeoCities Philly?
It is... It is so much a GeoCities website, but yeah, it's just it's this story of Ted the Caver, and he he's a like professional spelunker or whatever, and the GeoCities website is basically like a blog, and each page has a new update because he keeps visiting this cave and keeps saying it's like, I'm not going to tell anybody where this cave is. The name of it, or anything like that, because, I don't need anybody. This is a dangerous cave, and I'm a professional, and I don't need amateurs coming in and getting themselves killed. But I don't want to spoil it since none of you have read it.
Yeah, don't spoil it, and anybody who already knows.
But it's, for everybody who already knows, Ted the Caver is like vintage creepypasta, and so you all need to read it.
Does it or does it not kick Slender Man's ass in the ultimate showdown? I
would say it could definitely butt heads with Marble Hornet's Slender Man.
Oh.
But like everything else, like, no offense to anybody who is still doing Slender Man content, I feel like Slender Man just kind of ran its course.
Well, now it's going to be a movie, and which means that it's going to be in the dirt pile now.
Yeah,
it'll come back when it's fashionable again.
But Ted the Caver is like this wonderful little diamond in the rough, in the GeoCities rough, and and nobody's expanded upon it, and I don't want anybody to, because I feel like it's perfect as it is, especially just because it's a GeoCities website, and so like that's actually part of its effectiveness, is because of how simple.
I want there to be a creepypasta with like those very 90s GIF heavy like dog breeder websites. And they still make them that way. It's like before they found like Squarespace or Wix or anything, they were still a lot of these websites who are owned and operated by people who are like in their 60s, breeding like Cocker Spaniels and stuff, and they're like covered with animated GIFs of like that particular dog, and they still have web rings, and they're impossible to navigate. And the shoddier,
like, and the little comment section.
There's a comment section with no comments and a subscriber list. And the funny thing is the more garbage it looks, the more legit the breeder. Yeah. Because they never felt justified in updating the website.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sign their guest book.
Oh my god, we should do that. We should do that along with like our project idea for our fake dog breed dictionary.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna love when we actually do that.
Yes.
So Clint, do you have a favorite creepypasta?
That we haven't already covered, because I really do like Ben Drowned's. Like, I remember when I watched it, I was impressed with the amount of effort that was put into it.
So many creepypastas are really low effort, but not that one.
I did enjoy Marble Hornets a lot for a while because just I think the just the raw concept of Slender Man is just terrifying to me, where you have this impossibly tall silent creature that looks human but not quite.
Yeah. And you like never know its
intent.
You don't know what's driving it. It's just all you know is it's gonna kill you.
It's like it's alien. It's like it's alien, but in a way where it's still native to the planet, but it's just still something beyond our understanding. So it's like that eldritch horror without being literally from another dimension or whatever. Yeah. It's that feeling of a cryptid, basically.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is.
I had a job where I drove home over the Hollywood Hills at like 4:30 in the morning, and I would just be so tired at the end of the shift, but I'm like driving around in these windy hills, and there might be a deer that jumps out in front of me or whatever. I saw, I did have like to stop for like a coyote once. Like it's just, it's I want to get home and go to bed fast, but I also want to be careful.
Yeah.
So what I would do actually is I would imagine that around the next turn, around the next curve, Slender Man was going to be just standing in the middle of the street.
Oh my god.
Careful you don't turn the car and then smack right into him. It would kind of ruin the mystery.
So I was always just like, so that was my way of just scaring myself awake and just being really alert and watching the road.
Wait, has this been answered by the internet? What happens if you run a car into Slender Man?
I think that just never happens.
Yeah, but what if you
Slender Man is smart enough not to stand in the middle of the street.
Is he though?
But I'm just saying, like, you just casually crossing the street because he's like, I didn't want to bother going to the crosswalk.
Doesn't he just distort matter and reality though? Like,
I don't know.
I just want to imagine he's actually a big ass moose.
Slendermoose.
He's just a moose wearing a hat.
It's not even like a distorted moose. Yeah, it's an actual moose wearing a suit.
Or wait, Slender Man doesn't even have a hat.
He doesn't have a hat.
What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of that painting by that British painter with the guys with no faces and the hats everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
What is that
bowler caps.
surrealist guy?
Yeah,
who drew like a pear underneath an umbrella or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, that
guy. Anyway, sorry.
Slendermoose.
Go ahead.
Slendermoose is just a moose because you don't need to distort the proportions to make them extremely scary.
Yeah. But
it's wearing a suit for some reason.
Everybody thinks that Slender Man's fingers are like actually the moose's antlers.
Yeah, Slender Man is entirely.
It's like we've solved it.
Slender Man this entire time has actually been a moose viewed from the front wearing a suit.
Yes, clearly
seen in the corner of your eye while you're passing by it down the road.
So, a movie that affected me, like it did you, with like thinking you're gonna run into Slender Man, was The Ring.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, after I saw that movie, and it's just like weird stuff started happening, and I think it's just because it gave meaning to like stupid random things that I would not have been afraid of before.
Yes.
So I was afraid of the shower because I was certain that like a centipede was going to come up out of the drain. I was afraid of white noise on the television, and to this day it still makes me nervous. I cannot walk through the house like completely dark. Like, I know that most people don't want to anyway because you might run into something, but I'm not afraid of running into things. I'm afraid that there's going to be like a horrible Samara monster that that's like going to grab me and kill me. And I cannot stand sliding door closets.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that one scene. Because of that one scene in The Ring where, like, they're talking about, it's like, oh, the mom's, like, her daughter died, and it's, like, talking about how she found her. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to that scene where, like, the closet door slides open, and there's her daughter with that horrifying, like, scream face, and, like, looks like she's been soaked in water for, like, years. Ew. And so, like, anytime I open up a closet door, I, like, brace myself thinking I'm going to see that. So.
See, I never saw The Ring, so I never had, like, that experience. Mm-hmm. But you know what did it for me?
What?
the theme song to Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh yeah,
That triggers something of just like, I am instantly spooked and afraid of all the things. And the worst mistake I would make as a kid was watching that right before going to bed.
yeah, I could.
So you did the same thing?
Yes, like it was Unsolved Mysteries gave me the spooks, and then America's Most Wanted.
Oh
gave
my
me the
God.
spooks, too.
There might be murderers.
Was creepy.
Yeah,
It was because they were talking about like actual people.
Yes,
that were, like out there.
I was like, an actual guy can come into my room and stab me to death with knives.
You can also do that thing where you were like hurriedly, like you're because you were a kid and your parents don't want you to flick on the lights because they turned off all the lights, and so now you can't turn on the lights and you have to scurry to bed and like as quickly as possible and touching the floor as little as possible because you don't know they'll hear you if you were touching the ground.
Yeah,
It's like you need to race to the bed, get under the covers, and make sure that even your head is under the covers because you know if they can't see you,
Yes.
they totally it's like so long the blanket is like the safe zone.
These are the rules.
Yeah.
Everyone knows these
Everybody
rules.
knows.
Yes.
I kind of
Oh, you
wonder
can't
if
abduct
these
me
are
under the
like
covers.
universal rules like around the world. I'm kind of curious about that.
It's this little children camouflaging in their own.
Yeah.
He's like, who am I? The stuffed bear? The lump under the rug? Who knows? I mean, blanket,
So,
not a rug.
How did we get here?
How did we get here?
Yeah.
We're talking about Steven
This is,
Universe and then racism, and now we're Slender Man, and he's a moose.
So,
And,
so this has been Derailed. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
It makes you fall into a doze and someone walks off with your clothes. You see that engine hum? That train's sure going some. Here comes that choo, 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 choo. That's the railroad drag, the railroad drag, the railroad